Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the 15th anniversary celebration for the HBCU Student Action Alliance, a program that is truly near and dear to my heart. As a former fellow during my time at North Carolina Central University, I did a lot of work with Common Cause. Common Cause was really an area where I kind of got my feet wet when entering like the political arena. One of my most fondest memories are like all the yearly retreats that me and the other fellows did. It was really enjoyable to have students from all over North Carolina, HBCU students all over from North Carolina come talk. We would politic just about anything and everything. I've always had a good time getting to know people, expanding my own knowledge and things of that nature. But tonight, we'll have a short panel discussion with folks involved with the program, a spoken word performance by Jophius Thompson III, and then our keynote address by Miss Black USA, Myra Gary. Stay tuned because we might also draw your name throughout the program for swag prizes. Now, I'd like to show a short video that will give you a feel for the breadth of the work that our fellows do here in North Carolina.
When I first decided to be a Democracy Fellow, I wanted to do something that I've never done before and do civic engagement. It turns out to be like the perfect thing, the best thing I've ever done.
I decided to become a Democracy Fellow, Common Cause, because I wanted to learn about how to become an active citizen.
I actually heard about the Fellows program my freshman year through one of my peers. He considered me a politically engaged student and he thought it would be a great fit for me.
So I definitely think being a Democracy Fellow with Common Cause has changed my life, honestly.
Actually, one of my Bennett sisters had referred me. I saw one of the events she was doing on campus one day and I told her, I really enjoy the work. And she said, I think you would be a perfect fit for what Common Cause stand for, holding power accountable.
I remember the first time that I was introduced to Common Cause, it was at a voter registration event. So it was really nice. They were real genuine, they showed love. You could tell they really wanted to make some change.
In 2006, Common Cause North Carolina launched the HBCU Student Action Alliance, an exciting initiative to empower a new generation of student leaders at our state's historically Black colleges and universities. Today, our HBCU Student Action Alliance is active at all 10 HBCUs in North Carolina. Through this program, our Democracy Fellows are strengthening civic engagement on their campuses and in the communities across our state. They're helping students make their voices heard at the ballot box, in the halls of government, and beyond, as together we strive to create a democracy that works for everyone. Every election year, our Democracy Fellows are dedicated to encouraging voter participation. As part of that work, our fellows have helped thousands of students register to vote.
You gotta vote!
All right. So I've come out to canvass voters, get people to make sure they get out and vote.
Our fellows have also engaged communities beyond their campuses, providing residents with reliable, nonpartisan information on elections.
It's great. It's great to see young ladies and young men out here doing it. We need more of them doing it.
Hey, ma'am. Just want to see if you'd be interested in taking a 30-second survey on your voting experience.
I am doing some poll protection for Common Cause. I'm just trying to help the cause of voting today.
These student leaders have also served as vote protection volunteers, helping to ensure everyone's rights are protected and respected at polling places.
Ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people don't stop.
And our fellows have led the way on student voter turnout, organizing marches to the polls on HBCU campuses throughout North Carolina.
I voted, did you?
Beyond Election Day, Common Cause Democracy Fellows are a voice for HBCU students within the halls of government. In addition to engaging at the local level, our fellows have organized lobby days at the state legislature with students from HBCUs across North Carolina traveling to Raleigh to speak directly with lawmakers and advocate for issues that matter most to their campus communities.
This can be me, this could be my peers in a few years, so it's something to look forward to, it's something to work towards to get here, to impact the lives of so many people.
I definitely love the experience at Capitol Hill.
Our Democracy Fellows also traveled to Washington, D.C., speaking up for HBCUs in the halls of Congress and meeting with national leaders while strengthening their own leadership skills.
My favorite part, John Lewis. When I seen Mr. John Lewis come around, there was some kids and they just all turned around. I found the kids' faces. The feeling I felt, I can't explain. I was in awe and appreciative for him still standing on the wall, still fighting for us, still ready to shake my hand, even though he probably shakes thousands of hands just like mine. But that handshake.
Our HBCU Student Action Alliance has been at the forefront of creating an inclusive democracy. Our fellows have stood up for racial justice and to protect the freedom to vote. Our fellows have also helped lead the fight to end gerrymandering in North Carolina. In 2016, the state legislature split the campus of North Carolina A&T State University, the nation's largest HBCU.
I am insulted as a North Carolina voter and an HBCU student. This idea that the lawmakers in North Carolina saw it fit to suppress my vote and the voting strength of my peers on campus because we attend this wonderful university is baffling.
Common Cause Democracy Fellows there helped raise awareness of that extreme gerrymander, organizing the campus community to speak out and demand fair voting maps.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.
In 2020, as North Carolina was hit by a worldwide pandemic, our Democracy Fellows persevered in their work, shifting to effective virtual engagement. They encouraged their fellow students to be counted in the crucial United States Census and to make their voices heard in that year's historic election.
I'm super grateful, as always, to be a Common Cause Fellow. I think that because I was able to experience the program pre-pandemic, I've always had super high hopes, and we have continually, as a team, exceeded those hopes.
Today, the critical work of our HBCU Student Action Alliance continues as we empower a new generation of leaders for our state and nation, leaders that will shape our future and help build a thriving democracy for all.
Wow, that was truly a great video. Now, for our first prize drawing of the night, I'd like to introduce Michael Spencer, who is the program manager of the HBCU Student Action Alliance. Michael works with students in the Triangle and the Fayetteville areas of North Carolina.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. I have here a swag bag that has a bunch of Common Cause HBCU t-shirts, a water bottle, a sweater, and some other things. So I'm going to be using a digital raffle drawing tool that a friend of mine shared with me earlier today, and we're going to pick who won the raffle. All right, and the winner is Kaisha Payne. So Miss Payne, or Kanisha Payne, Miss Payne, we'll be reaching out to you after the event to talk to you about how we can send you your prize. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I hope you continue to have a wonderful evening.
Congratulations. Now, I would like to introduce Jasmine Abney, who will moderate a brief discussion with Braxton Brewington, Shay Harris, and Mitch Brown, who are all connected in some way to the Student Action Alliance. Jasmine Abney is a student at North Carolina Central University. She has served as the co-chairman of the Political Action and Civic Engagement Committee at North Carolina Central's campus. She's been doing a lot of work as far as getting students out to vote, getting students to the polls, educating students throughout campus with a myriad of programs of events. She was my partner in crime while I was on campus. Next, we have Braxton Brewington. He was a Democracy Fellow with Common Cause, where he worked to register students to vote on campus, organize marches to the polls, and lobby Congress. He has worked for the Democratic parties of Georgia and North Carolina, and served as a field organizer for U.S. Senator Cory Booker's presidential campaign. Braxton currently works with the Debt Collective, a national debtors union fighting to cancel debts and defend millions of households, excuse me. Next, we have Shay Harris. Ms. Harris has served as one of the first campus coordinators working at North Carolina Central A&T University. Currently, she serves as a policy advisor for the DC Office of Deputy Mayor of Public Safety and Justice, where she develops and influences policy and strategies for 6 government agencies impacting the criminal justice system and public safety. Prior to this position, she was the deputy director for the mayor's office on returning citizen affairs. Shay is a proud alum of North Carolina A&T. Last but not least, welcome Mitch Brown, who is a Democracy Fellow alumni as well. Mitch graduated from North Carolina A&T University and the New York University School of Law. He now works as a counsel for the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, concentrating on voting rights issues. He believes that he has been called to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, to defend the defenseless, and to empower those who feel powerless. Now, I'll turn it over to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jaden. I am so glad to see all of you here. So let's get right into it. Beginning with, for you, what has been the impact of the HBCU Action Alliance? And you all may just jump in and answer as you feel called.
I'll start. So for me, the impact of being an HBCU intern was powerful because it got me into this work. Working with Bob Phillips and Marcus Bass, who was the HBCU coordinator at the time, getting involved in the political process and getting involved in what it means to be a voter helped me to learn that I have a voice in my community and that I have the ability to help others in my community to also express their vote, their voice through the vote. And through that process and through the 11 years that have transpired now has led me back to North Carolina as a lawyer now, working on the same exact issues, sadly, the same exact issues that I worked on as an HBCU intern, but it meant the world to me because it gave me purpose and it gave me my calling.
I see Braxton didn't come off mute yet, so I'll go ahead and jump in. Good evening, everyone. And Mitch, I love that shirt, Aggie Pride. So I was, if not the first, one of the first, I think maybe there was one person, one or two people before me. And so this program was my first job out of college. And so it meant the world to me to be working on important issues in North Carolina. And as Mitch already alluded to, issues that have subsequently continued to permeate. I know that to be able to graduate from an HBCU and then stay engaged by working with HBCU students was so impactful. And I tell people all the time, my start in grassroots organizing really started with Common Cause North Carolina. And I now currently serve as a board member for the National Common Cause board. And so it's definitely a full circle moment. And, you know, I know that the impact, part of the impact that I'm able to have today is because I started in this program and it very much informed how I look at the world, how I look always and try to put at the forefront HBCU, students and their experiences. And so I'm glad to join you all today and looking forward to the conversation.
So 3 for 3 on the Aggies. No shade to the other schools. We love the other HBCUs. Similar to, I think, what Shay and Mitchell said, this is exactly what brought me into this work. And I think one thing that the program really showed me was a difference that you can actually make. And I know that sounds cliche, but I hope Reggie and Elisa and I know Vashti is here, but others, but these were some of the individuals that had a really important, say in some of the work that I did. And like a real quick story, it started off for me when I started as a Common Cause Fellow, the Reggie, my program coordinator, was telling me that like, your university is divided into 2 different congressional districts. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what does that really mean? And it started from there to us deciding, like, let's just draw some chalk on the ground and see if we can get some attention. And then it was national news. It was Greensboro news, then it was national news. And then there was a local case in Greensboro, and then there was a Supreme Court case. And then there was just so many changes, and I got to watch that activism birth from its start and become, go to the Supreme Court. And I think that, story really embodies how effective the program was. And I think that taught me so many skills that I've been able to take into other work that I've done after, the program or after Common Cause, and now coming back to Common Cause. So, the program it was so important for me. It taught me so many skills about organizing and talking to people and mobilizing and organizing people in a real way. And so, yeah, I'm extremely grateful for that.
So can you all share a favorite memory of your time with Common Cause and or the HBCU program?
Okay, I'll take this one. I think we did some amazing activism during my time. Like, it was all wonderful. My favorite time was probably the retreats when all of the other HBCU students who were doing work on their campuses, when we would get together and spend either just like the day or a couple of days chatting about what was successful and unsuccessful on our campuses, getting to know each other, just building literally an alliance, a coalition of young, students, HBCU students who are making a difference. And something about, creating that network was like really awesome. But like, we also just laughed a bunch. Like, we had a good time. So I feel like those retreats were probably my favorite memories.
I can jump in because mine will be brief. So when I was the HBCU campus coordinator, like, we didn't really have a budget. And so part of the joy that, part of the best experience for me is to hear what's happened subsequently. Also, I'm not going to date myself, but I did say that was my first job out of college. So, I'm digging back in the archives, trying to remember memories. But I will say lobby days stood out to me, being able to bring, again, Black brilliance to the Capitol, and allow the opportunity and space and to share space and community with those brilliant students, to hear them advocate on behalf of themselves in front of legislators. Again, it was tremendously impactful for me to see. And again, the work that even I now do, and I've transitioned from DC government. I now am in the private sector at JP Morgan Chase doing philanthropy work and corporate responsibility. And I'll just quickly say that one of the things that I talked about in my interview process with them was my job at Common Cause, North Carolina, and being able to talk about how important relationships are and how I learned that in my role as the HBCU campus coordinator. So also just, again, it was my first job out of college. So being able to still be on college campuses and go to parties and hang out, in different unions was also fun. I know, we're supposed to keep it buttoned up probably, but I would say that's memorable as well.
Yeah, my favorite memory is when it's coming to DC. So Common Cause North Carolina won an award in 2011 for this HBCU Fellows program, and so I got a chance to go to DC with Bob and Marcus, and we got to go to the I forgot the name. I forgot the actual name of it, but it's attached to the White House. So basically, we went to the White House, the building next to the White House. I can't remember the name of it right now. I live down the street from it, so I can't remember it, but going there and accepting the award on behalf of Common Cause North Carolina and being able to speak to all of the participants in the Common Cause National Convention on behalf of North Carolina. That was fun. And it's still one of my profile pictures on my Google page to this day. I have a lot more beard now than I did then. But that was my favorite memory.
I can definitely echo a lot of the sentiments. The retreats are truly unmatched. It's a time to kind of let loose and learn a whole lot. I know personally, those retreat times really laid the foundation to be able to then, throughout the semester and throughout the year subsequently, be able to pick up the phone and call each other and say, hey, I have a question. How did this work on your campus? Is it effective? Do we need to switch it up before we bring it to my institution? And that made the difference in being able to actually impact our campus communities. But I'll also say that DC trip, you all have talked a little bit about the split at A&T. And during my DC trip, we actually got to speak to a legislator whose constituents were on your campus. And remind them that this is a real issue and that they need to put their ear to the streets again and figure out ways to kind of rectify the issues that students at A&T were facing. And so being able to work together and get through some tougher moments in front of our nation's leaders was also a really enjoyable and powerful moment that we all look on fondly. So my next question to the panelists is, what is something that you learned from the HBCU program? I know it's a lot, so pick 2 things maybe that have been really, really impactful that you've learned.
I have one thing, and the one thing that I want to mention is that my voice matters. That's something that I've heard throughout my childhood and throughout college in particular, that my voice matters. But at that point in time in college, I thought I was just a college student. And Marcus came up to me and was like, "No, your voice matters. You have the ability to shape how your fellow classmates see the world, how your fellow classmates feel about the electoral process. Like, you have the ability to take leadership." Because I was in student government at the time. I was in student government all 4 years, but in particular, I was just starting out as a freshman, and he told me my voice mattered. And now, as I have progressed throughout the years, I've realized that my voice really does matter, and that I can help shape the environment for other people to show them how their voice matters, and as a collective, we can change the world.
I love that. I would just quickly add two things. I think the power of community would be the first one. If nothing else, this program is a community. And as Jasmine said, being able to leverage your colleagues and your counterparts on different campuses, I think is immensely powerful. And then also just, being able, once you transition, to still stay in network and community with people that you'll meet along the way. I think that's really one of the most powerful parts of the program. The other piece I would add, and I think it's evolved over time, I think back then I would have called myself an advocate, and right now I would say I've moved to activism. And I think that distinction is important because you don't have to be anyone else's voice. You don't need to be anyone else's voice. You're there to be a voice for yourself. And when you're there representing people that aren't necessarily in the room, then absolutely speak on their behalf and speak truth to power. But the power is moving people to action. And so the real work is when you go back to your campuses and how you're moving people to action. And so I just challenge you all and all your brilliance and greatness to always keep that in mind, that it's not being a voice for other people, but ensuring that when you get in the door, you keep the door open, and that you also speak truth to power. So those would be the 2 things I would say.
Okay, I have 2 kind of specific things that I just remember blowing my mind a little bit. These are very specific, but one, when we were doing activism, we were like trying to figure out how do we get people's attention? Like, how do we get people to see what we're doing? I just really did not know that you could just email, Twitter DM, and text journalists and just shoot them messages and say, this is what we're doing. We think it's important. Either they say, I think that's important, I want to learn more, or they don't respond. But that's one specific thing that I learned, and have been using that tactic ever since. Another thing that I learned I don't remember if it was Allison Riggs or Jane or someone. At one point, I was at something and we were talking about the upcoming trial that was going to happen in the courthouse in Greensboro. And I said, like, you know, we were expecting to wait to hear what was going to be said, I guess, a few weeks later. And I was like, oh, I really wish I could just hear what they were saying. And someone said, why don't you just go to the trial? And I was like, can I do that? Like, I'm not one of the lawyers or I'm not on their team. And they're like, you can just go to a trial. It's a courthouse. You can just go in. You just have to turn in your phone. And I did, and I went, and I just remember listening to the three judge panel and listening to the lawyers make their arguments. I just thought that was really interesting. So I tell everybody I know, I'm like, if there's a trial that you want to see, maybe you can just go. So that's really specific, but it had a really long lasting impression on me.
I think everything that you all have mentioned are lessons that I have learned through this program, and I am still learning. I will add one that's a little bit more personal to my nature. I learned how to communicate a little bit more positively, especially when I felt like people were not honoring the positions that they hold. And so a big part of the work that we have done in recent years with this HBCU Action Alliance is holding power accountable. And sometimes power doesn't want to be accountable. And so I really had to learn, like, okay, I can ask this question nicely, and I can just make a note of what was not said and keep that as the answer. I don't have to push and push. And so that has been something that has introduced quite a bit of grace into my life. So I'm glad, I'm grateful for that. Our next question is, looking ahead, empowering future leaders, what do you think this new generation needs most? We need y'all. So you can take a moment. I see the faces. That's a big question, kind of, because we do need a lot from y'all. But Jaden, since you are a very recent graduate and you've just stepped into your adult life, will you start off? Because you know us very well.
And give me a second, hold on. I don't even know where to start, just because some of the work I did, like, you know, me and you did, Jazz, just going like door to door on campus, knocking on people's doors, trying to give them information. A lot of people not necessarily being like receptive to that. I really think this next generation just needs guidance, really. Not necessarily like guidance and like holding their hands, but we just have to figure out ways to how we can communicate the things that we know and we want to help them with, and like in a language that they understand. So like I've always thought, in my experience with Common Cause, I learned that if you make things a little bit more personable to them, like, hey, you should care about this issue because it affects this, that, and the third, then people are like, oh, all right, yeah, like maybe I should pay attention to this. So really just tailoring our message to fit kind of a newer audience.
I would say that the new generation of leaders, they need a sense of history. They need to know the impact of history. My dad tells me all the time that his generation has failed us because everything was handed to us. My dad is a recipient of the civil rights movement, you know, was able to go to whatever school he wanted to go to, you know, he was a child of the civil rights movement. And he says all the time his generation let us down because they handed everything to us and did not instill within us the reason why we fight so hard. And now, as we see the measures that our foremothers and forefathers fought for now being stripped away by courts, legislatures ignoring the rule of law, legislators and legislatures continuing to discriminate against Black voters in particular. We've forgotten our history. Like, we've forgotten where we come from. And so I think new generation of leaders needs to remember where they come from and that they stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before them. And with that sense of history, then I think that we can have a better conversation and better movement towards not repeating history. There's a common saying: if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. Right now, we're heading down the path of repeating history time and time again, where we are fighting the same fights that we fought before. And so I think the new generation needs to understand that and figure out a way to do it differently so that we don't fall into the same cycle again and again.
I would echo what both panelists said, and I'd be remiss. I'm sorry, I joined a few minutes late. I just have to say publicly, like, thank you to Bob and Jane. Like, they were instrumental in starting my career. And so I just had to like publicly say that I didn't realize they were on the Zoom with us. I would just add, I think being authentic and showing up as your authentic self is something that I wish I had learned earlier in my career. And as Jasmine alluded to, right, you do that in grace. And there's certainly things that you learn along the journey, but I think it's so important that we understand that you have to show up as your full self, and we shouldn't be dimming our lights or trying to contort ourselves to be anything different than the brilliant people that we are. So that would be one thing. I would say also be the bridge. And so what Mitch already just spoke about in terms of knowing your history is critically important. And I remember getting so frustrated because I felt like I cared about issues and why doesn't anyone else care about it, or where's my tribe? And so being a part of this network certainly helped in that discovery, but also understanding what Jaden said, you have to make it real to people. And it's not necessarily that they don't care. People come from different backgrounds. People are dealing with different stuff. And I can't even imagine being on a college campus right now in the middle of a pandemic. So that's a whole nother conversation. But ensuring that we make the issues tangible as we engage with people, I think is super important. And that means that you have to meet people where they are. And I lost my train of thought. I had 3 things, but those would be among the things that I will offer.
That was great from both of you. Wow, this younger generation, like, I just want to affirm them. they are killing it right now, doing so many things outside of the box, civil disobedience in ways that have really moved a lot of things, especially in the democracy space, the climate space, racial justice, economic justice, all of these things. I think I had some, I guess this is sort of advice. I think I had some maybe warped definition of what expertise looked like. And I really want to give people permission to redefine the definition of expertise. Not everyone knows exactly what they're talking about, and some people should be listened to a little bit more. I guess what I'm trying to say is, lean on the side of expressing yourself and asking questions, because what I've learned is there are so many people who you think have the answer to things and maybe don't fully. And so you probably have the expertise or the personal background to step in and answer a lot of questions or try something new. So I hope that makes sense. But it's interesting when you look back on things and you think, wow, that person was talking about something really, really big and important. And I just didn't quite grasp it because maybe they didn't have a certain type of degree or they came from this background or something like that. And I just want to encourage people to open up a little bit, and everyone comes with a lot of different skill sets. And if you can understand that, then probably move forward even faster. So.
Ashe, that I affirm, that made plenty of sense. Thank you. You all touched on really important points. Firstly, we do need to know our history. As the younger generation, we need it. But Shay also mentioned we kind of need that sense of history. And you all kind of mentioned that it is difficult to be on a college campus right now, more so than ever. And we do need to be reminded of our community and that we are not alone and that those little islands are not as secluded as they may seem. And so I thank you all for your input this evening. I thank you all for being the ones to lead the way for Jaden and myself to come along and to pass the torch on to those who are coming after us, because you all have made space for us that is unmatched in a lot of ways. It is a very small group of us, but we are mighty, and I am proud of the work that I've been able to witness firsthand, and to carry on the work that you all have started. So thank you so much. Thank you to Elisa and Vashti and Michael and Bob and all of those who make this work possible. To Ryan for capturing all those moments. I had like 4 hairstyles in that one video. So I know he was hitting the pavement hard to make sure that these moments were possible. So thank you again. And I'm going to pass it on to Jaden to move the program forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine, and to our panelists as well. So I want everyone to like now settle in. We have a very special performance by Josephus Thompson. Josephus Thompson is a poet, teacher, and lecturer. He's the host of 90.FM1's The Poetry Cafe and founded the Poetry Project, where he uses poetry as a catalyst for literacy, leadership, and service. He has performed for Oprah, opened for Kanye West and Floetry, shared stages with The Last Poets, traveled to Australia, London, Seoul, and South Africa, as well as back and forth across the United States, sharing his gift. Welcome, Josephus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've truly been inspired. So it's been a blessing just to sit back and hear you all talk about these topics. And I almost feel like I was at the experiences that you all were able to share. As an artist, I think we always wonder if we're doing enough. And I was reminded that sometimes you can only do your part, but having a team of people that are also doing their part, make the movement that much stronger. So thank you for the work that you all do and for providing this space to communicate. This was really dope. So dear capital punishment or people or police, or capital of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all until it all falls down, or crumbles, or mumbles before your eyes. On national television, they let it explode with zip ties. They scale buildings and break windows, and Congress barricades doors and hides and runs and prays and escapes while we watch them tour with flags in hand with no fear of repercussions, or death, or taser, or knee and neck, or restraint, or arrest, or being detained as they hold open doors and help other women down the steps. And I'm not sure if I'm watching an insurrection or an inside job, but I'm watching in pure disbelief as they enter and exit unharmed, cheering and posing for pics and posting to social media pages. And I wonder, where are the charges? Or the SWAT team, or the National Guard? Where's the riot gear, the canisters of smoke, or maybe this is the smoke screen. Maybe they are the smoke screen. Injustice is blind, and they say this is not who we are, not what our country represents. But isn't it? They chant 1776 in the distance and speak of civil war. And the last time I checked, civil war divided the North and South over slavery. So they bombed Black Wall Street and burnt down Rosewood and anything else that was Black and thrived. This is exactly who we are. We've always been war waiting to happen when things ain't going their way. When the power of tide shifts and they redline and gentrify, send us overseas to win their wars with no reparations or anything else. While in New Jersey, brothers locked up over weed. While in Colorado, it's $1 billion industry, and because of this felony, he can never own a dispensary. How interesting, and this is festering in my spirit, and it's not that we want you to shoot them. We want you to not shoot us, like you don't shoot them, but always have, and always will. And it may be true because I want somebody to get shot, or at least hosed, or maced, or want to see them get pinned, or cuffed, or paddy wagon up, but it looked more like a picnic, as they all emerged with souvenirs, dawn in red, white, and blue, their virtual court hearings in the comfort of their own homes to await their day in court because they are innocent until proven guilty by a jury of their peers. And I turn off the TV and the fences and barricades go up long after the riot is over. And Breonna died in her own home. Breonna died in her own home. How power and privilege seem to be so white and so right all the time, at a time where we're kneeling peacefully seem to be so wrong. And the song Change Gonna Come plays softly in the distance. My question is when? When do we get to be capital or equal or even? When do we get to stop being peaceful and turn the other cheek? When do we get to arm ourselves and live? I live for the day they call our stand patriotic, a true testament to the people. But until then, we will keep dreaming, keep turning our dreams to reality, keep loving and fighting and voting, keeping the change that we want to see. But trust me, this is not easy. Sincerely, me. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Josephus. Even though we're on Zoom, let's just, snap it up for you.
I'll take the snaps. Appreciate it.
All right, so now for our second prize drawing of the night, I'd like to introduce Vashti Hinton, who is the program coordinator for the HBCU Student Action Alliance, working with students in the Triad region. She's a proud alum of North Carolina A&T State University and a former fellow of the program.
Hi, everyone. I, like my colleague Michael, I'm also going to be using a automated raffle drawing over here on my computer screen. So let us see who shall win this round. Forgive me for mispronouncing this name. Chandley White is who I drew for the winner. And Michael showed earlier a bag that had a water bottle in it, some t-shirts, some pens, and we'll connect with you after the event and get you information and send you the materials. So congratulations, Chandley White.
Thank you, Vashti. Now it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, another proud Aggie and 2021 Miss Black USA, Maija Gary. Currently, Maija is a corporate communications manager at Zoom, where she serves as a strategic communications advisor, an expert to internal stakeholders and executive leaders. In her role as Miss Black USA 2021, she advocates for women's leadership. She uses her voice and platform to inspire women to be strong, confident, and fearless. Maija lives by the motto, don't be the first or the last to do it, be the turning point, the point at which real change happens. Welcome, Maija Gary.
Thank you so much, Jaden, and good evening, everyone. I am so excited, so honored to be here with you today. Thank you to Ms. Vashti Hinton-Smith, we go way back, Michael Spencer, and Common Cause North Carolina HBCU Student Action Alliance for having me for such a prestigious occasion. Congratulations on 15 incredible years, and round of applause to each of you just for being here today. Currently, I am a corporate communications manager at Zoom and a proud HBCU alumna of the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I also serve as Miss Black USA 2021. Again, I'm so proud to be here celebrating 15 years of your hard work, making a positive impact in the community. But tonight is not about me, tonight is about you. So we are going to jump right in. February 1, 1960, 4 Black college freshmen, also known as the A&T 4, Joseph McNeil, Franklin McCain, Ezell Blair Jr., and David Richmond sat down at a whites-only Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, and they refused to leave even after they were denied service. This act of courage, dignity, and persistence inspired a sit-in movement that eventually spread to 55 cities in 13 states, and lunch counters across the country began to integrate one by one. Since 1964, Georgia has been a red state, consistently voting in favor of Republican presidential candidates. Oh, but in November 2020, with the help of leader, activist, and former Georgia State Representative Stacey Abrams, mobilizing voters and combating voter suppression along with partnering organizations, Georgia turned blue for the first time in 28 years. After serving a lifetime of public service, being elected District Attorney of San Francisco, California Attorney General, and United States Senator, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is the first woman, the first Black American, and the first South Asian American to be elected Vice President and hold presidential power. Now, do you know what all of these people have in common? They are alumni of historically Black colleges and universities who chose to break barriers in the name of access, equal opportunity, and a seat at the table. Each of them chose a purpose bigger than them and took on civic leadership in order to make a positive change in their communities. And guess what? You are next. Your time is now. And as a civic leader, your job is to learn, educate, collaborate, and advocate. Let me explain. Learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. During your time at your HBCU and beyond, be a forever student, a forever learner. Learn from your interactions, your opportunities, your experiences. Learn about the challenges that communities and people are facing so that you can innovate, discover solutions, and create real change. Educate your peers, your classmates, your family, your counterparts, and your communities about what you learn. When you spread and share knowledge, you enlighten and empower communities to continue to spread and share knowledge. We have the power to control our own narrative and our own destiny, but it starts with educating ourselves and then reaching back and educating others. Collaborate. We have got to work together, hand in hand. Two is always better than one, and iron sharpens iron. Think, in just 15 years, think about all the things that you've helped Common Cause to accomplish while working together with like-minded people who share your fire for change. Can you imagine what 15 years in the future will look like if you continue to work together? Lastly, advocate. It is your turn to lead your communities, your HBCU, and your peers. Advocate for the initiatives, the people, and the communities that you're passionate about and take interest in. Advocate for the challenges that haven't been met with a solution yet. Speak up and be a voice for the voiceless. Represent for those who are unrepresented. Advocate for access and equal opportunity for those who are underprivileged. It's your turn. Your time is now. And I'd like to leave you with a lasting quote that Jaden read in my bio. Don't be the first or the last to do something. Be the turning point, the point at which real change happens. That's my time. Thank you so much. And Jaden, I guess I'll toss it back to you.
Thank you, Maja. Wow, what a great celebration. Now to everyone in our audience tonight, the work that HBCU Student Action Alliance is made possible with the generous financial support of people like you. Please take a moment to click on the link in the chat box and consider a gift to our program, big or small, so we can keep it going for another 15 years. You see it like in the link right there. While you're doing that, I want to thank our panelists for highlighting the important work and impact of the HBCU Student Action Alliance tonight. And thank you for Josephus and Maja for your inspiring words, And a huge thank you for joining our celebration. Here's to another 15 years. Goodbye and good night.